What is happening there, everyone? Jim here, RCAD, doing a little unboxing video for y'all today. Huina, 1593 excavator. Very difficult name to pronounce. Heard it pronounced several different ways. Been told it was pronounced several different ways. Either way you cut it, difficult name to pronounce. So here we go, a new 1593 excavator. This is my brother's machine. He ordered this from Sterling Kit, the online store. And I'll explain why he did that. Last excavator that I ordered, I got that from Extreme RC. Awesome people over there at Extreme RC, Gary Cheevers and the whole crew over there on the USA side of Extreme RC. Great people to deal with over there at Extreme RC. Only reason we didn't get this from those guys is because the Sterling Kit, supposedly, air quotations, includes extra attachments with their excavator. So Extreme RC, along with many other stores, didn't. All they had was the excavator, the transmitter, the charger, and the battery, and that was about it. Once again, nothing bad about Extreme RC. Sterling Kit, these guys supposedly, air quotations once again, includes the timber grabber, the jackhammer, and I believe the claw-fingered metal finger grabber dealy deal. So supposedly it includes all that other nonsense in there. Out of all the online stores that we looked at, they were pretty much the only ones that included all of that other stuff. I think there was one other store online that I seen that did, but they were basically the same price. So once again, ordered from Sterling Kit. So let's go ahead here and take a look at everything that is on the box. So far, we're just looking at the main front half of it. We've got the excavator, 1/14 scale, ages 8 and up. Over on the other side, we just have the name. Same thing on this side. Looking at the back half of the box, picture of our excavator, professional RC excavator model with 22 functions at scale 1/14. Picture of the transmitter. Remote control, 2.4 gigahertz frequency. Simulate real manipulation, simulate real driving, realistic light, realistic sound. And that is a look at the back half of the box. Not much up on top of the box, just our Huina excavator and professional blah blah blah. And checking out the bottom of the box here, Huina toys, number 1593, made in China. All the best toys are made in China or Japan, overseas, regardless. Caution, this product is not a toy. Huina toy is not a toy. RC excavator, you know, it's a toy. It's a really cool toy, but it's still a toy. This is not intended for use by year 8 children and kids under the age of 8. For your safety, please read the manual carefully and thoroughly before operating this product. Specifications and color of contents may vary from photo. Golf conformity mark, I'm not too sure what that's all about. Not suitable for children under 3 due to small parts. Warning, choking hazard, small parts, not for children under 3 years, includes user guide. There's the rest of our nonsense. And that is a look at the bottom half of the box. Let's get a knife out here, crack this baby open, and see what everything looks like. Brother's excavator, go ahead there, ye. Do some cutting on that there. Alright, so we've got the excavator upright here, balancing on a rock. It did come with all the attachments that it stated it was supposed to come with. Our jackhammer or drill. All metal. Just like the 1580. And then it came with this other attachment right here. I believe they call this the ball grabber. They probably should have called it like the rock grabber or something like that. But nevertheless, let's take a peek at it and see what she's all about. This is the first time that I've seen one of these. Fingers are metal. Cylinders on the side are plastic. Fake false cylinders just for decoration. Housing on the side is plastic as well. Upper portion is also plastic. So the only thing on this that has metal so far is just the grabber fingers themselves. So there's a look at the grabber. And then the last item that it came with is the timber grabber, all metal, once again on that, and a small bag of hardware in there along with it. Alright, taking a look at the rest of the stuff in the box, I'm going to just hand this stuff off to my brother as we inspect this so he can check it out as well. Very carefully peeling out the transmitter. Taking a peek at our transmitter, similar to the 580 transmitter. Satiny feel, black color, functioning buttons, on-off switch. That one functions, that one functions. Nothing going on here. 1580, these guys work. And nothing over here. Up, down, left, right. up, down, left, right. Left track forward, left track reverse, right track forward and reverse. Runs on the 3 AA batteries. So there is a peek at our transmitter. We have our included charger. 4.2 volts times 2, 800 milliamps times 2, 1.6 amps or 1600 milliamps. Stuck in there pretty good. Alright, checking out our included battery. Lithium ion, 18650, 1200 milliamp, 7.4 volts. So 2 18650 cells in here, 1200 milliamps or 1.2 amps, 7.4 volt lithium ion. It's interesting, my 580 came with a 2000 milliamp lithium polymer battery. Same style. And this one has a JST plug on it. So there is a peek at our battery. Alright, I'm going to let my brother go ahead here and pull his excavator out since this is his machine once again. And here I am unboxing everything as if it was mine. Alright, very good. Let me grab our camera here and get a look-see at what we have going on here. Very good looking machine right off the bat. Looks a little bit disproportionate, kind of, sort of. Very bulky here on the back half of the chassis. Cab significantly smaller than the rest of the excavator back here. Cab significantly smaller than the 1580 cab, as well as the 1550 cab. 1580 and 1550, basically the same cab, metal versus plastic. This one is significantly smaller than those guys. Pretty nice little layout on the inside. We have our flashing light as it appears down there. Fake yellow plastic light up there on the top. Everything is plastic from what I can see on our excavator here. Looking at the track carriage, this is something that I was kind of curious about, what was metal and what was plastic down here. Plastic drive cog, plastic track carriage, all plastic across the front, plastic idler on the front, 3 plastic idler wheels across the top of the track carriage. Looking on the bottom of the track carriage here, let's tip it up a little bit. We have 1 idler back here, nothing across the rest, and 1 idler at the front. So very similar to the little 1550 excavator. 2 plastic idlers, and that is it. The rest are all false on the bottom of the track carriage. Track is a plasticky, rubbery consistency. Definitely a better looking track than what comes on the 1550 as far as things go. One last little plastic thing to point out are the track drive units themselves. These guys right here. Very similar in size to the 1580 track drive units, except these guys are all plastic. But they look very similar in size and shape as the 1580. So I'd imagine if you wanted to in the future, you probably could, or somebody could if they wanted to, upgrade to the 580 motors or track drive units. Looking at the top half of the excavator, good looking machine all in all. I love the detail on this thing. I love the look of it as well. It's just a good looking machine. We have a metal gear down here, worm gear system. There's a small worm gear on the bottom, or a screw gear that rotates, and that is what moves this main arm up and down. Taking a look at the back half, exhaust pipe, back of the excavator. Spinning around, looking at the other side. Once again, awesome looking machine. Little bits of foam sticking to it all over the place. Good detail on everything. Once again, everything is plastic on this. I love the little catwalk on here. Entrance coming up on either side to the catwalk. Catwalk going all the way up behind the main arm on the excavator. A couple fake air filters on the back. Battery cover back here. Love the detail back here. Just for being a little plastic excavator, they have pretty good detail on it. Undoing the battery cover. A lot of room here on the inside. Looking at the inside of the battery compartment, very roomy back here for what it is. I think we can get a shorty pack in here, a 2S LiPo shorty pack. Looks like it could fit back there, relatively easy. Female JST plug on the back of that. So there is a look at our battery tray compartment area. Moving on with the rest of the excavator. Very good looking excavator once again. Little bits of foam and debris stuck all over the place on this one. Alright, so the Huina 1593 has a worm gear servo going to our secondary arm, another worm gear servo going to our bucket, and once again we have our metal gear, worm gear driven servo or gear system down on the main arm, which controls the main arm up and down. 1550 excavator, gear driven on the inside here. It basically has a gear driven unit similar to this guy right here. On the inside of the main arm, going to a half moon gear on the secondary arm, which rotates that in and out. Another one of these down here in the bottom of the secondary arm. And there's another gear that would sit on the inside of the arm. And this square pin that goes through connects up with this gear, and that is what actuates your bucket in and out. On the 1593 and the 1580, once again, worm gear driven servos for our secondary arm and bucket controls, metal gear for the main arm. Main arm, all plastic. That's all plastic. Our linkage down here is plastic as well, connecting linkage. So that's all plastic. That's plastic as well. So the whole linkage system down here is plastic, alloy bucket. Cylinder cover is metal. Everything else is plastic on the cylinder cover itself. Worm gear servo, all plastic. Next worm gear servo, metal once again, plastic for the cylinder cover. Plastic servo, false lines, plastic, plastic, plastic. So everything is plastic except for our alloy bucket on the front. Bucket size, very similar to the 1580. Our overall bucket size and shape and everything, attaching point and whatnot, very similar to the 580 or 1580 excavator. Except that the alloy seems a little bit different. This seems like it's a little bit lighter than the 1580 bucket. For example, here's my 1550 excavator. I have the 1580 bucket on this one currently. Same shape, same style bucket, except this one seems to be a little bit heavier all the way around. But we won't be certain unless we actually put it on a scale. But just eyeballing it and feeling it and picking it up, it seems like it's a little bit lighter material than the one on the 1580. Alright, let's clear some things up here. How much do the buckets weigh? This is our 1593 bucket with its hardware. We are going in grams here. $187.6 grams. 187.6. This is the 580 bucket. Very similar in size. Probably the exact same size all the way around. Let's see how much it weighs. I think it's made out of different material. I know it's made out of different material. It looks heavier. 191. 191.3. So we were 187.6 for this one. 191.3 for this one. So yes, the 580 bucket is indeed heavier than the 1593 bucket. Exact same size and shape and all that nonsense, but heavier bucket all the way around. Not by much, but it is heavier. So if you're looking for a heavier bucket, that might be a way to go. Here is the aftermarket bucket that you see online, the yellow bucket. And just FYI, which one can hold more material? If you look at these two side by side, our two buckets, they are very similar in size and shape. Just about equal. Except we can actually put the yellow bucket inside the 1580 bucket. The 1580 bucket is just a little bit wider across the front, but the yellow bucket is wider up and down this way. As to which one can hold more material, you would think that the 580 bucket can hold more just because this yellow bucket will fit inside it. But no, it's not the case. I actually did this on another video and measured them out with sand. Filled each bucket up with sand and then poured it onto a scale and seen which one could hold more volume. And the yellow one can actually hold a lot more than this one can. Another benefit for buying this yellow bucket, once again not being sponsored by anybody, is that it has better cutting teeth on it and better cutting edges right here. And they are obviously replaceable, so you could make your own cutting edges if you wanted to and put them on there. Let's see how much the yellow bucket weighs in comparison to these guys. 264.9. 264.9. So big difference there. 1593, 187.6, 580, 191.3. Yellow bucket, 264.9. So if you're looking for a heavier bucket, like for your 1593 or for your 580 or 1550, you want a little bit more weight on the end of the boom for digging and whatnot, then the yellow bucket might be up your alley. Once again, better cutting teeth all the way around and holds more volume. So that might be a way to go. All right, spinning the excavator back around again, looking at the driver's side. Awesome looking machine. I really like the way this 1593 looks. That is for sure. Good looking machine. Checking out the arm once again. There is one of our dead man switches for the secondary arm. There is our power port right there for plugging in our attachments. Not too sure where the dead man or safety switch is at for the bucket down yonder here, but I'm sure it is equipped with one somewhere. Just talking about the kill switches and safety switches for the main arm and secondary arm and bucket and all that other good nonsense here. Looking at our main arm, there's one right up here and there's one right under here. I'll take the camera off the tripod and we'll see where those are located. Next one down here for our secondary arm is actually located inside the bucket linkage itself right here. So if we take this lower part off, it's going to be difficult to show on camera probably, just because we need to take this whole linkage apart. You don't have to take it completely apart. Just need to take out the upper screw on this side and the lower screw on that side. This one has a pin that goes through, a plastic connecting pin. Alright, so I disconnected the linkage over here on the back side, just on the upper screw. Lower screw on this side, plastic pin going from one side to the other through here. Taking the cap off for the end of our cylinder up here. Right here is where our limiter is on this one. Right on this arm, this linkage. Looking at the bucket linkage, right up here, a little squared off hole. Almost like a servo saver of sorts, but not. More like a potentiometer. So that's right in here, built in on just the one side of the arm. So when we have this hooked up, it tells the servo when to shut off. Kind of spring loaded down here on the bottom end of it when it bottoms out going forward or curling the bucket in. On the opposite end, it's right here is where it's bottoming out. Right there, kind of spring loaded once again. So that is where the safety switch or the kill switch is located for the bucket. Now it's just a matter of putting everything back together. Getting our little cap for the end of the cylinder. Lining up our bucket linkage. Lining up our linkage with our limiter switch. Installing the screw on the back edge. Screwdriver is just a little bit fat for the job at hand. Fine tip, but a little bit fat for going into the receiving end there. Trying to get this in a position where everybody can see what's happening. Not that you're really missing anything. Snug this down, don't go crazy. Alright, there we go. Alright, zooming in on the excavator. There's our upper limiter switch, right there. This guy. Tells your arm when to stop when you're extending it out. And there is our lower limiter, telling your arm when to stop when you're curling it back in. Once again, the limiter for the bucket is right in here internally on the inside of the arm. Kind of like a potentiometer of sorts, hooking up to our bucket linkage, letting that know when to stop moving in and out. As far as the main boom, what tells that when to stop going up and down, I am not sure. I haven't gotten that far into it to see what exactly is stopping things from moving or telling things when to stop. But I assume that there is some limiter switches in here somewhere. And judging by the look of things, it must be concealed underneath the chassis. What does she weigh in at? Using the same scale that I used for my other excavators. Get a rough idea of what she's looking at here. Alright, so looks like we are sitting roughly at 8 pounds or 3.5 kilograms. My stock 1580 weighs roughly 14 pounds or roughly 7 kilograms or 6.5 kilograms, somewhere in that area. And my heavily modified 1550, which has been seriously weighted down with nuts and bolts and things of that nature, weighs 10 pounds or 4.5 kilos. Stock 1593, 8 pounds, 3.5 kilograms. Let's get some basic measurements on this thing while we're waiting for the battery to charge. Tracks overall, front to back, we are about 10 7/8. 10 7/8 from here to here. Cab, front to back. Going from the corner of the cab, not on the brush guard itself, that hangs out a little bit further. But we are about 10 1/8 across the back of the cab. So 10 1/8 of an inch to that point back there. Measuring our height overall from the bottom to the top of our brush guard on the cab. We are looking at right around 6.5 inches roughly. Overall width on the front of the cab, we are roughly 1 7/8. Overall width across the bottom of the cab here, roughly 2 7/8. So 1 7/8 by 2 7/8 by 6.5 up to the top. Cab itself, roughly 3 1/8 to the top of the cab, and right around 3 1/4 to the top of the roof rack. Back of the machine, guesstimating here, tough to measure. We're right around 5 and a little over 5 1/2, 5 5/8, somewhere in that area. Right around 5 5/8 across the back of here. Point to point on our catwalk on the back, just under 7 1/2 from point to point. Main arm, measuring from center to center roughly. Pretty tough measurement to grab here on this. We're about 11 1/4 inches from center to center. So from our access point here to our next access point, 11 1/4 inches. Overall length here on our secondary arm, I'm going to try to measure it from the very top of it all the way down to the very bottom and see what we're looking at there. That is roughly 8 1/4 from what I can see. From point to point on our hinges here, right around 5 3/4. From point to point on our axes there. Bucket. Outer diameter, a little over 3 1/4. Inner diameter is just shy of 3 inches on the inside. About a 1/16 away from 3 inches on the inside. Top to bottom, we're about 2 1/2 to our lowest point. Right here on our curl. To the top of the teeth. I guess I got a proper curl there. We are right around 3 1/2 from the bottom to the top of our teeth. I just finished measuring the excavator and I discovered something right here looking at our track carriage, missing 2 bogie wheels. Right there and there on the upper portion of our track carriage. Only 2 on the bottom on either side. Same on the driver's side of the excavator. But the driver's side had 3 across the top. And we only have 1 on the passenger side. Looking at the driver's side again. 1, 2, 3 idler wheels or bogie wheels. 2 across the bottom. Passenger side, we're missing 2. So I dug into my 1550 parts bag here. This is all my leftover parts from when I gutted out my 1550 excavator, converted it over, and I put 580 track drive units in my 1550. And when I did that, I had to eliminate a couple of the bogie wheels on the back, idler wheels. So luckily, I have 2 idler wheels right here that I was able to salvage out of my parts bag. So this, once again, was ordered from Sterling Kit. Is the place that it was ordered from. And it came with all its attachments, but once again, missing 2 bogie wheels. Or idler wheels. Whatever you want to call them. So we're going to try to get these guys snapped in place real quick. There we go. We got 1 in place. Try to get our other one positioned in place as well. Alright, there we go. So, problem fixed. Once again, ordered from Sterling Kit. Came with all its attachments. Its little grabber there, and the jackhammer, timber grabber. Missing 2 bogie wheels. So that was one drawback. Once again, luckily, I had my spare parts bag for my 1550 with all my gear-driven units in there. And I had to sacrifice 2 bogie wheels on my track on the back when I installed my 580 motors onto my 1550. So I was able to salvage those 2 bogie wheels. And that is one good reason to save all your parts when you gut something out, tear apart an RC car, tear apart an excavator, convert an excavator, whatever you do. Don't throw this stuff out. Keep that stuff, because you just might need it somewhere down the road. Alright, so upon editing, I discovered one more missing thing from our 1593. And that was a screw from the driver's side track drive unit, right here. That was gone. Not there. So we're missing 1 screw from the driver's side track drive unit, 2 upper idler wheels from the passenger side or the right-hand side of the vehicle. Alright, while we're waiting for the battery to charge up, I'm kind of wondering here, looking at the transmitter, wondering what controls our accessories. On my 1580, it's these guys right here. On this one, these don't do anything. They are false buttons. So kind of wondering which ones are going to be our accessory buttons, whether it's going to be these guys or possibly these guys right here. Once again, these guys are false. So let's take a look at the manual real quick, just because the transmitter doesn't say anything on it. A little green button on the right is our light switch. Sound switch is the opposite one. And these guys apparently are the accessory function. So on the 580, our accessories are here. And on the 1593, we have them right there. Alright, we got her all charged up here. Take our battery cover off. Install our lithium-ion battery, positive to positive and negative to negative. Here's our sound switch. That is our light switch, so we can shut our little blue flashing light off in the cab. No actual lights on the excavator. So we have our sound and lights running separately. Pulling down on the right joystick is raising up our main arm. That is variable. So it is variable. Bucket control. Moving our bucket out. Moving our bucket in. Sound's not terrible, a little bit on the quiet side. Get our secondary arm out. Secondary arm back in. Rotating our chassis. I believe this has endless rotation on the chassis as well. Let's shut our sound off. Seems like it's kind of proportional. I'm not too sure there. Nope, not proportional. Arm all the way curled in. Secondary arm pulled all the way in as well. That's as far in as it'll go, and that's as far in as our bucket will go in. So that doesn't really curl back all that far. So there's our arm all the way up, and there's our bucket all the way in. We can't move our secondary arm in any further, and we can't curl our bucket back any further. So not a very good angle right here. That's as far up as she goes. Let's get a measurement on that. About 5 5/8 roughly to the bottom of the bucket. 5 5/8 of an inch, roughly. Not very high up in the air, all in all. Probably wouldn't be using this to load any vehicles. Let's get our attachments plugged in and see what those guys are all about. Alright, we have our grabber hooked up here, looking at our controls. So this opens the grabber over here. That closes it. Doesn't seem like it's got all that much before it starts clicking, before it hits its safety. Yeah, we barely have it. It's got it, but barely. It's a cool little novelty item there. Definitely has its uses, that's for sure. We could use it for picking up cobblestone and small little bits of rocks and things of that nature. Jackhammer. This one doesn't matter which way you run it. It works either way. And then we've got the timber grabber right here, pretty much self-explanatory on that one as far as hooking all that nonsense up. Let's put it up against the 1550 and the 1580 and see what it looks like side by side. Alright, pulling out the 1550 excavator, lining them up track for track. Let's get our camera out of the tripod here and see what we got going on. Nose to nose, arm curled all the way in. Arm curled all the way in, bucket curled all the way in. Big difference there. 1550 has been modified. Worm gear, screw, servos all the way around. And it does have a 580 bucket on it. All the 1580 attachments will fit on a 1550, FYI. So there we are looking at them back to back there, kind of. 1593, definitely larger or longer than the 1550. Height-wise across the cab, they're pretty close on our overall cab height. And then once again, 1550 and 1580 cab, quite a bit larger in overall size versus the 1593. As far as our overall dimensions go right here. Here we are looking at them back to back. 1593 definitely sitting up taller than the 1550. Chassis is quite a bit larger on the 1593, overall chassis and cab and whatnot. Cab itself is smaller than the 1550s. Main boom and secondary arm are larger than the 1550s as well, but not coming back in at as much of an angle as a 1550. At least this modified one. And looking at the back half here, 1593, definitely a lot bulkier and larger than the 1550. Overall cab height though, about the same. As you can see there, 1550 cab sitting in about the same height as the 1593. But the excavator itself, the track carriage and all that nonsense sitting up higher off the ground by far in comparison. Nose to nose, big difference there on the bucket curl and secondary arm curl on the 1550 versus the 1593. That's all the way in and all the way back once again on the 1593 for the secondary arm. Won't go back any further this way, and the bucket won't curl in any further than what it is. Which one is larger between the 1593 and the 1580? 1580 cab higher up than the 1593. 1593's rear chassis portion is sitting up higher than the 1580. Tracks. Just about the same. 1580's tracks are just a little bit more beefy, and overall height is a little bit higher. Width, just about the same. Length, 1580, a little bit longer than the 1593. Overall length on our tracks. Looking at them back to back, hard to tell, just because the cab for the 1580s on either side. Just about the same overall size in all reality. It's just that cab on the 1593 just doesn't fit the rest as far as scale goes. 1580, 1550, same size cab. The Huina front loader cab is essentially about the same size. Same on the legendary Buckster, all about the same size for the 1580, 1550, and the front loaders. But this guy over here has a smaller cab, and that kind of throws things off a little bit scale-wise. That is my arm curled all the way in, and that is my bucket curled all the way in. Aftermarket bucket, aftermarket quick disconnect on the bucket. So there's a 1580s bucket curl and drop in comparison to the 1593. So that is a look at those two. 1580, it definitely tucks the bucket in a little bit further and curls it back a little bit further by comparison to the stock 1593. There's the arm all the way up. 1593 all the way up. So there is a difference between our two right there. 1593, 1580. 1580 bucket not quite as high in the air, but curl back further. 1593, you can get the bucket up just a little bit higher in the air. This one is actually losing some height overall, or else it'd probably be sitting up about the same level. Because with our little quick disconnect on here, you can see that we're moving our bucket from right here to down here. So we're losing a little over 1/4 of an inch right here from our quick disconnect. And here is a look at the 1550, modified 1550. Overall height, arm pulled in all the way, bucket curled back all the way. So there is a difference between all three of them. 1550 really getting it up in the air compared to the 1580 and the 1593. Plus our bucket is curled back quite a bit, not spilling any material out of that bucket. So that's pretty good sales pitch there for a modified 1550. Sitting next to a 1593 and a 1580, having the bucket higher up in the air. Much better for loading vehicles. Mainly, that is due to our worm gear servo right here. Can get the main arm up quite a bit higher than these guys can. Looking at our pistons right here, pretty much straight up and down, a little bit less than straight up and down, kind of forward from straight up and down. Same with the 1580. That one's actually a little bit further back than straight up and down. A little bit beyond 12 o'clock. 1550 sitting at about 11 o'clock. Looking across the front here, every one of them up in the air as far as they can go, all curled back as far as they can go, all pulled back in as far as they can go. 1593 is sitting up a little bit higher than the 1580. 1550 much higher than both of them combined. Once again, 1580, that bucket would probably go up a little bit higher. It might be sitting more even with the 1593 if we didn't have this quick disconnect on here. Once again, we're losing some height with that. So we might have the bucket up just about even with the 1593. But once again, 1593 not curling that bucket back so far compared to the 1580 and the 1550 way down the line. All right, they're all lined up track to track, nose to nose, straight down the line. Which one has more reach? 1580 winning on that. 1593 coming in second. 1550 not looking so good down there with his little short arms, little T-Rex arms in comparison. 1580 once again getting a little bit more stretch due to our quick disconnect down here, pushing our bucket out just a little bit. Once again, moving it from here to here, so getting a little bit more stretch out of that. Otherwise, it might be fairly close to the 1593 as far as overall stretch. All right, which one can dig deeper? They're all side by side. Main arm down all the way, secondary arm pulled in, so it's straight up and down, bucket sitting level. 1550 far right, modified 1550 with a 580 bucket. 1593 in the middle. 1580 on the far side. Once again, getting a little bit more drop out of the 1580 just because of that quick disconnect. Yes, you can probably put that quick disconnect on your 1593. Since it does have the power port, you can use the quick disconnect. So 1580 digging a little bit deeper than the 1593. 1593 obviously digging a little bit deeper than the 550. And there we go, final look at my brother's new Huina 1593 excavator sitting next to the other excavators. And the RC After Dark Off-Road Adventure Park Track Maintenance Division is starting to grow. With our third excavator, one front end loader, more equipment along the way. Taking a look at our included parts one more time, included items are steel mill or rock grabber, quartering hammer or jackhammer, timber grabber, battery charger, transmitter, excavator of course, and one 7.4 volt 1200 milliamp 2S lithium ion battery. No C rating on that battery. I'd imagine it's probably pretty low. Probably right down around 3C is what I would imagine. They don't tell you on the Huina batteries as far as what they are. But on the legendary Buckster battery, they do. So I'm just going off of what it says on the legendary Buckster battery as far as things go. 7.4 volt 2S lithium ion 3C 2000 milliamp. So at least on legendary they give you a C rating, and I'm kind of guessing that it's probably somewhat similar with the Huina batteries as well. My 580 battery, same thing, 2000 milliamp 2S lithium polymer battery, but it doesn't tell you what the C rating is. So lithium polymer on that one, 2000 milliamp. Lithium ion on this one, 1.2 amps or 1200 milliamps. Legendary Buckster, 2000 milliamp lithium ion 3C discharge rate. Just a little mental note right there on your battery with the C rating. The C rating is the battery's discharge rate. That's how fast the battery discharges. The lower the number there, the slower the discharge rate. The higher the number, the faster it discharges. So basically like more punch. Higher number, more punch when you hit the gas. Lower number, more of a steady, even, consistent draw off the battery. So got to keep an eye on that C rating right there. Too much C, you might overload the circuit board on your vehicle there. So keep an eye on your C ratings if you're shopping for aftermarket batteries. That is one thing that disturbs me about the Huina products, is that they don't give you a C rating on any of the batteries. That's kind of a little bit disturbing. So that is going to do it, everyone. Very much appreciated for y'all sticking around and watching the video. As always, questions and comments are always welcome. And we will see you all on the next one. Thanks again.